if you have a job opening, you actually want to hire the person that will thrive. And there's lots of people that end up second, third, or maybe even last in the selection process. But if you look at their natural talents, they are actually the ones that are most likely to thrive within that job, within your company.
Everything right now is basically a distribution problem.
Yeah.
There is enough of everything.
Yeah.
But where the demand is not where the supply is. HR is no different.
It could be that you feel stuck or that you feel lost or that you are wondering, where do I belong? Where's my place? And it's totally fine to discover yourself. There's plenty of jobs waiting out there for you that you could excel at. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second episode of the Neurolympics podcast, the podcast of Brainsfirst, the company that helps you make better talent decisions powered by neuroscience. I'm Lucy, and I will be your host for today's episode. Last episode, we spoke about how every one of us is good at something and how crucial it is to figure out what your or your team's cognitive abilities are to really match them to the context you're working in. Today, we want to take our conversation a step further and answer the question why you could simultaneously thrive as a bartender and as a school teacher. And we'll look at our founders' cognitive profiles to exemplify what you can practically gain from playing our Neurolympics games, the in-house tests developed by Brainsfirst to measure your potential. In the same vein, we'll talk the neuroscience behind how you can relentlessly follow your passion and purpose, and also briefly touch upon societal issues we're seeing in the field. But let's welcome once again two of our founders, Eyas Lichte and Andries van der Leij, who are also experienced neuroscientists working and teaching at the University of Amsterdam. Well, Ilya and Andries, it's a pleasure to have you here once again and be able to follow up on our conversation from last week.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for coming. Last week, we already heard that you are not really excelling as a bartender,
No.
but let's say other people definitely are.
Mm-hmm.
Why could you, with a certain cognitive profile, excel as a bartender, but simultaneously also excel as a school teacher?
Right. I think there's a couple of aspects to this. So last time we actually spoke about a bartender being quite receptive, right? So if somebody shows up at your bar, you notice them immediately. If there's lots of things that you need to juggle around, you kind of have this, on the one side, you could say they are easily distractible.
Yeah.
On the other side, they're very receptive to all kinds of inflowing information from their environment. And that attentional aspect makes them highly suited in that kind of environment. This is also something that a teacher needs, right? If all the kids in your class, for example, are working and then one of them gets stuck, you actually need to perceive that. So you need to disengage what you're doing and focus on that specific person. So that's just one aspect of that. The other aspect is that you need to be able to adapt, right? So you need to see what the other person needs in a one-on-one. And if you're going in one direction, then suddenly you see they need something else from you. You actually need to be receptive to that, be flexible, and change your behavior accordingly.
Yeah.
So this kind of flexibility, mental flexibility in terms of behavior is a very important aspect that you need in both kinds of jobs.
So in there, would you say, so those are called also transferable skills, right? I
Sure.
think is kind of like a big concept out there right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But there's lots of transferable skills. And what it actually shows is that if you look at cognition, at the human part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, then you actually see that you have these kind of innate talents to build up certain skills, right? Like a bartender dealing with aggressive people is something that, well, they have this tendency to actually be able to learn that better than other people. And no surprise that a police officer is also not far away from a bartender in terms of brain profile. Also, well, having this kind of natural talent to build up these skills. So it's actually showing that some of the things that we do in daily life in terms of abilities or skills are easier to learn with a specific kind of cognitive architecture or a specific kind of brain profile than ours.
Yeah, but that means that with your cognitive profile, for me, it's quite interesting that seemingly unrelated jobs can be so related from a cognitive perspective, right?
Sometimes these things are very counterintuitive. If you look back at it from a cognition point of view, it makes sense. But for instance, we have seen overlaps between football players and people in air traffic control. It's like it feels like you're quiet behind of a screen and it's all very planned and controlled, whereas you're in a very dynamic, fast-moving environment as a football player. But both of these heavily trained skills are built upon basically a very high sensitivity to little nuances in information, like jinxed movements or dots on the screen, be able to predict patterns that are coming, all these kinds of things. And then it starts to make sense.
Well, I think if you think about it, like an air traffic controller is looking at this radar screen the entire time and basically executing all these very, very intense cognitive functions on that radar. For a football player, you just have one direction you can look at, right? So you need to represent this kind of internal radar and keep track of that on your internal radar. So from a cognitive perspective, I think it's not so different, actually.
No.
Yeah, quite striking.
Yeah, that's also very surprising for us. Indeed, these lateral or transferable skills are interesting because a lot of people, the world of work is shifting rapidly. I'm not talking about Gen AI, but just Gen AI, but just putting it out there. So a lot of people are thinking like, what's going on?
Yeah.
That's the new generation, right? Gen AI.
Gen AI.
Yeah, Gen AI.
So tests like we have, so can sort of reveal a little bit about what kinds of what's the directions that you could possibly take, other than what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And you see it all over the place, these kind of transfers. I think if you look at the brain profiles of, say, a general manager or a CEO compared to, say, a police officer, it's quite similar. And if you think of it, right, like managing a crowd of people or managing like large teams in an organization, providing the directions in a quite structured, protocolized kind of setting. That under the hood, in that sense, in terms of skills, it looks similar, and you have to negotiate both of them. The level of negotiation maybe differs, but still, it leans on similar kind of skills, and we actually see that they have similar kind of brain profiles, giving rise to talent for these related or transferable skills.
No, it's quite striking. And I think maybe we can pause for a second and make a really important point here to our listeners. Because maybe you're sitting or at home listening to this or watching this today, and it could be that you feel stuck or that you feel lost or that you are wondering, where do I belong? Where's my place? And, I think we want to give you a little bit of hope today, because it's totally fine to discover yourself. There's plenty of opportunities out there and plenty of jobs that you could thrive in. So a lot of playground for you to really figure out your purpose, your passion, and where you belong. Plenty of jobs waiting out there for you that you could excel at. So talking about purpose and passion, let's talk some neuroscience again.
Mm-hmm.
How can you make sure, despite, let's say, stressors from daily life or distractions from daily life, how can you make sure to relentlessly pursue your passion and purpose on a daily basis? What are maybe some neuroscience tools that can help us here?
This is a huge question, right? So I'm handing it over to Andries, the creative mind.
So basically, this is a huge topic everywhere. So also in blog land, basically, or in a podcast land.
Yeah.
There's one, basically one school that's about the superhuman and the 5 a.m. club or whatever. I don't really know how it's exactly called. I would like to plea for the reverse, basically.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like we said last time, maybe align your passion a little bit with the things that you realize that you could do pretty well already from, I don't know, for instance, you were 8 or something.
Yeah.
These things are pretty special. And not everyone is as good at that, whatever it is, as you. There are a lot of things that you can excel at, and you often don't realize how good you are at these things. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that basically give yourself some rest because your brain needs it. And way more than society now gives you. Put that phone away. Kill the push messaging. Time slot your emailing. Just give yourself some rest, and also non-functional rest.
Non-functional, mind wandering.
Mind wandering.
Yeah. Just maybe basically you can elaborate on what non-functional rest is.
Yeah. What is mind wandering?
Nowadays everybody's talking about tech breaks, right? Or going on retreats without internet, without a smartphone and stuff like that. And in some respects, it makes sense. So if you take a break and immediately take your phone with you to the bathroom or whatever, this is not really putting your mind to rest in some way.
Yeah.
Like the other thing is, like, we're highly addicted to our routines, our habits. So actually, like, if you would shuffle around the apps on your phone, for example, scramble it each day. If there wasn't a function on your smartphone scrambling it each day, you would lose the habit and you would actually get angry at your phone.
At your phone, throw it away.
If you don't take it with you to the bathroom and leave it, you actually also get into an internal conflict because you want to act out your habits.
Indeed.
But I think, so in some sense, I think this is the difference in a bit about passion, what you love to do, what you like to do, and what you're good at. And I think Andries, like if we're talking about art, for example, right? Like, loving to enjoy art itself, it's a hobby in that sense. So if you have a true passion and you realize you're not good at that, indulge yourself in it, but don't make it some part of, say, the 8-hour workday or something like that. So do it, and if there's a true passion that you follow, and you feel that you actually struggle to do it at the level that you actually expect yourself to do it, well, you might still be able to learn everything, but you won't be the best. Still, I wouldn't discourage you to do it. Like, somebody else will actually be better than you at that. But that's maybe no problem.
Yeah.
If you're actually doing something you don't love to do and you actually don't have a talent to do that, then you're in the danger zone. Right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. So a lot of passions already are hopefully a little bit in alignment with something that is also can be condensed back to achievable goals, right? Because a lot of passions are extremely big, and you should break it down to basically little steps that you actually can win and you can be proud of.
Mm-hmm.
But there's sort of now this, I don't know, this tendency to be a sort of superhuman, like I said. And that's probably not advised. And otherwise, another trend is that people are basically overcompensating and overstressing, like a lot of off time and mindfulness, and also that is also a little bit overstating it,
and also pushing yourself into
Indeed.
that. And
so the key point here is that if you start doing the things that actually are a little bit aligned with what you do, that's our take, then the reward will come on itself.
You
will start feeling that it's working, right? That also fuels your passion. If you then sort of are not over stressing your brain with distractions, just on your day-to-day basis, you also don't need to take 2 days a week off to be on the yoga mat. That you don't have to. If you want to, that's fine.
It's not necessary.
But, it's sort of like we're all in and then we zone out all of the time, and that's not actually
yoga really helps me stretching for my taekwondo as well. So
it's very good.
It's actually synergy here.
It's sort of people are moving now in an on-off state, right? That's what I mean. Like
totally.
Very busy or not at all.
Or not at all. Exactly. I'm also seeing these extremes.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. One more thing I thought about, what really helps me to pursue like my, purpose or goals is consistency. I think what we repeatedly do, making it a habit is a lot of people will call it, but repeatedly doing something really gets our brains, I think, attuned to maybe also a goal. And I don't know, I have a very visual brain, so I like to look at things visually. So what I have at home is I call it a vision wall.
Yeah.
And I have like, notes or quotes or also fears, what I want to work on. I put it on that wall and I see it every morning, every evening before I go to bed, I look at it and it really helps me. And then I'm exchanging it and I also see the progress of like, I came maybe that fear, and that helps me really be consistent. So I feel like maybe creating little tools that would help you to stay consistent with the goal.
I think this is a great example. Like if you do things consistently differently, then you might actually create or break a habit. So if you want to, like, I think this is also the difficulty, like talk about something like smoking, right? If you want to break the habit, then people actually tend to take a break to smoke a cigarette. And if you change one habit, like quitting smoking is extremely difficult also on a neurochemical level. But the fact is that you also don't take the break anymore. So you're actually trying to break two habits at the same time. And then you typically fail miserably. Like if you want to take on like changing, like imprinting one kind of habit, you need to put in months of effort to actually create a habit. If you are trying to create two habits at the same time, you probably will always fail.
Yeah. So one step at a time, as Andries also said, small goals and action steps. Yeah.
And on your other, this wall of, is it like completely filled with, it's interesting because it made me think like nowadays, apart from basically indeed like the information overflow when we are behind the computer or the phone, a lot of our hopes and dreams are pretty abstract, right? Whereas almost a third of our brain is visual. We're just basically very visually, our highest computing power, apart from the prefrontal cortex.
Well, it's a quarter of the brain,
A quarter.
In volume then,
in
right?
Volume, It's a lot. And but we don't visualize that much anymore, and it helps because that part of the brain is when your eyes are open, it's doing stuff.
Yeah,
always, so it's actually quite a good idea to visualize your your more abstract thoughts.
And then we actually like thinking of visualizing, like we had this conversation a while ago, like when I close my eyes and try to visualize something, nothing pops up, right? It's basically pitch dark. So that's that's a quality I don't have here.
It's different it's different again, right? We see these differences. When I close my eyes, I have 10 billion movies in front of my eyes that I could generate.
The individual difference there are big. There are also people, I don't know how that is with you, but if you, the people that if they read, for instance, or they think, they do not have an internal voice. I have an internal voice.
Oh, I also have an internal voice.
It also has a voice quality. It basically sounds like me.
Yeah.
Luckily, yeah. But some people actually don't have that.
Like you should.
They don't have a voice.
You can train to turn it off, and then you can actually speed up, right? Yeah. So then you can actually read like 1,600 words. In a minute.
Yeah.
So you can easily get up to say 160 pages an hour. So no problem. So like you're done with the book.
But it's just intriguing, I guess, that apart from that, which is true because I read that as well, that basically your internal voice sort of slows down your thought processes because you're basically vocalizing it.
Interesting.
But the whole thing is that people can be in the same room and exchange ideas and thoughts and are actually on the inside entirely different. And
so
that doesn't matter
me.
Apparently. So
I think in most conversations and in most meetings, we actually have this kind of information underload. So if we can process like six times faster than the speech rate, then you start thinking of a whole lot of different things, right? So this is also
drifting
like
away.
in our listeners happening all the time. Like this is going too slow for their mind, so they start wandering off and thinking of different things.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Neurolympics because they can obviously also help you or your team or a football club to pursue your purpose by showing what you're good at. Last week we spoke about what the Neurolympics are, but today we want to talk about what you can practically gain after having played the games. Mm-hmm. So I think everyone out there is waiting for this moment. We're going to have a peek into your cognitive profiles. So how did it go for you? What did you gain from the Neurolympics? And perhaps we can also briefly go through the steps that Brainsfirst would take after someone played the games.
I've played the Neurolympics quite a few times. So I created these games. I probably played it most from all the people that have played the Neurolympics. And,
you're addicted.
And actually the results are remarkably similar across all these different test sessions. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we commonly see, right? Yeah. So it's almost like a brain fingerprint that is very similar across the multiple times that you do the games. But I think the things is like if you then relay that to our brain profiles of people that we have measured over the years, then you can actually draw some kind of inferences. Like, do I have the brain profile that looks like a medical specialist or a salesperson or a financial analyst or a secretary or say an IT professional, and what kind of IT professional? So then you can actually flip it around and see, okay, so where does my brain profile belong? In what kind of job, what kind of work setting, what kind of context in that sense? Yeah. And the surprising part there is that we actually see that jobs actually differ along more or less 3 dimensions. So how mentally taxing is it? Doing things behind a computer or having difficult conversations, for example, or working in a practical way with machines, working with your hands. So that's one aspect that we see. Jobs differ a great lot along that dimension. Yeah. The other thing that we see how jobs differ is there some kind of protocol or rules or regulations that you need to adhere to? So, if we're talking about architects, right? They need to abide the laws of physics. That's at least something that is important. And there's rules for that you need to stick to. That the same goes for a doctor, right? They have this kind of decision tree and follow along the decision tree. So the jobs themselves actually dictate how you should do the work. And on the other side, there's more adaptation. There's more autonomous behavior. If you're a journalist, for example, how to use your sources, what kind of newspaper you're writing for, that actually, well, there's lots of flexibility in there, like how you do your job. The same goes for, say, a teacher or somebody who's a coach. So that's one of the things that we see. And the final thing that you see in terms of how jobs differ is, like, are you working mostly task oriented on a computer, on a document, on a with a machine, for example, or mostly working with people or for people directly, more human interaction, so to say. And the striking thing is, like, okay, I really enjoy this conversation that we're having here, but I'm like extremely task oriented on that scale.
I was thinking what comes up now.
No, but if I'm working with my computer and just like leave me alone for the entire day on my own with my computer, I basically charge up my battery, right? And if I'm standing in front of an audience or lecturing or even having this conversation now, I actually, this is not one of my natural skills. So I actually well, I consume more energy in terms of brain, and I need to charge up that.
Yeah. How's it for you, Andries? Are you more task or people related?
I'm a little bit less of that. I have a little bit less of that than Ilya. I think I said that earlier. So I also have that analytical side and being a little bit in the structure, analytical, task-oriented side. But I'm a little bit more flexible in shifting back and forth, which is also what we talked about, that we recognize that in each other and complement each other pretty well. And also I know, for instance, when I have to leave Ilya alone, and he also knows where basically he needs to get me in a room if we just needs to come up with something weird or unexpected. So that works. These kinds of insights, it also sounds very abstract, but basically you just do these games. And then we on the backside compute all these things that you do, how you press buttons, etc., into like features, which also sounds very technical, but basically it's just numbers. And then we transpose that and we translate it to insights. And that all goes automatically. Took a lot of work to make, of course. But
sounds very
in the end, the process
to me.
is pretty intuitive. So in the end, it's not about neuroscience, etc. It's just used to give anyone doing a test insights into things that are hopefully a little bit relatable in terms of, for instance, concrete behavior or skills that they can recognize, so that they can use that information to make whatever decision, right? A decision to, I don't know, for a student to study differently for an exam, to consider a course, to start an internship, to contemplate a first job. That's what we're about. And that way, basically what we do is you do the test and then automatically we try to make these reports or insights as concrete as possible. It's very intuitive.
So actually to make it practical, like at a vocational or at a job level, I now know like mathematician is actually one of my top matches, right? And like I'm trained as a psychologist, as a neuroscientist, and actually everything like talking about people, etc. No, the programming part and creating these kind of cognitive games and analyzing MRI data. So basically the mathematical aspect is really great. And one of my top 5 matches is a financial analyst. So like if I work with financial stuff, it actually comes natural. It's very easy, right? So you can transfer these skills quite easily. And I'm also quite close to a secretary, hence the administration skill. So that is actually telling. And what I think is the most striking here is that when I look at what my grandparents did, like one of them was a carpenter. And that's my top one vocational match, right? So that's great. I think from the personal perspective, it's great to know which job belongs to your brain. So to provide career advice, to provide job advice, and also in which kind of working context it actually surfaces. But this is one part, right? Like from an employer's perspective, you actually want to know, like, who is likely to learn fast on the job? Who is likely to succeed in this job? And also from the other side, like if these natural skills are in there in this job applicant, for example, you typically have higher vitality, less burnout problem. So you actually take better care of your people. So in that sense, I think we're talking a bit about risk in that sense. Like the risk of a bad hire from the employer's perspective is can be tremendously lower if you use these insights.
So again, we the test is pretty intuitive and simple, and then we try to we process your data. We compare it to an enormous database of other people's data,
which is, I think, also a really strong point of what
so there
the Neurolympics are about,
right? 200,000 or something.
Wow.
It's a lot. It's
striking.
A lot. And then we compare that, and then that's all benchmarking, etc. But we then indeed try to translate that to levels of understanding that are hopefully pretty practical. So the first level was basically trying to understand this, what we call a cycle, basically going from processing information, how you attend to things, if you're easily distracted, all the way to how you organize your work. That's one part. The other part is where we try to use that same game data, basically, to translate that to roles that work on skills that mostly, for instance, use something like being very structured or having to shift around your attention a lot of the time, so that you can, with the same data, you can, and the same report that we give to all everyone that does our test, basically, that you basically can see, oh, maybe I should plan my daily work or next meeting differently, all the way to I could contemplate an entire different career. So we try to explain it in basically levels, right?
That's very nice.
I think like, and if this is on the personal level, right? So it basically shows where you have a talent and like what you actually need from your work environment, your professional environment, to let it come out, let it thrive. So these are things that you can do, and you can easily gain 30% efficiency. So you can do your work there and even save energy at the end of the day. So that's from the personal perspective. That's interesting for the individual. That's interesting for the employer. The same thing you can do as a team, right? If you do it together with a team of 10 people, and you gain these insights into each other's brain, then you can have this conversation. How can I help you in terms of enabling you to do your work better? And how can you return the favor in that sense, so we can actually accommodate our brain differences between us? And then
and like also getting to know your colleagues better.
But then you're talking about like this is a bit of a weird sounding thing, brain-friendly working, where you actually are aligning all the team brains, the individual brains of the people in your team, and respect all their differences a bit. And that's an easy step where you can boost productivity of a team, and you can also see, okay, there are certain tasks that you're naturally good at, so maybe you should do a bit more of those, and another person a bit more of other tasks that you're not good at.
And I feel like it then ultimately also helps, say, the team leader or manager to better to actually know, okay, what would Ilya need or what would Andries need in a team setting. And then this also, it's just, ultimately when you know your people better, you know what they need. and this will make you aware, and you treat them maybe differently, or you
absolutely
right?
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's one benefit, but one of the other things, Andries was talking about, like a high work pace, and if you have this tendency to act out very precisely, don't want to make any mistakes, and your entire team consists of people that are actually quite precise, and there's a lot of work flowing in, maybe you should start looking for somebody with a different kind of brain profile that might be a bit more sloppy in some respects, but is faster to act. And then you can complement the rest of your team by actually speeding up the process. You actually need somebody else for it to do it.
Yeah.
Super good point. So you can also, by playing the games with your team, figure out, okay, where does everyone belong? But who do I maybe also still need to come into my team, right?
You see that people start using that information as creative as teams are. Yeah. So you can look for a complementary brain type. Basically, together we are stronger than alone. Yeah, which is awesome.
Or you don't think alike.
Yeah. Or you can see, or you can see indeed that the conclusion comes. This team is basically, as a whole, just missing an entire piece. Yeah. Because we are too alike. Yeah. Or you see these kinds of things, and then people start working with it, which is pretty helped by us, but also alone as a team to start improving that. But the whole thing is, of course, that you start using it information pretty importantly, because it starts with basically acknowledging and recognizing that you are different, working targeted on the inside, and changing things. And sometimes you even see that the team as a whole does things, for instance, in meeting structures that they all don't like. But that just happens to be. And that is pretty sad though. Yeah,
it's just because that's the way we are.
That's the way we work.
We work, exactly.
You can easily get a productivity boost of about 30% when you're combining all the brains of a team together and actually look what they need as a team. So that's and I don't want to spoil everything here, but we definitely should all stop multitasking now. That's the biggest productivity killer there is. So that's at least something that we should be talking about.
Yeah.
But
true.
Maybe later.
And in any team, in any kind of expertise, there are differences, but some things you can, for instance, most like development IT kinds of teams should not have lengthy meetings in the morning.
No.
Oh, okay.
You just, there are most, because there are different, not all, are really focused to do that deep work. But Ilya was talking about
in the morning.
Yeah.
And then, then you get these things like, we have these meetings like at 11 a.m. Well, that's okay, but not for those guys, for those people. Let them work.
Let them work.
And I think the final thing that you could take from this is that actually you end up in some kind of, you choose something that you like usually, right? Maybe what you're good at school. You take on training, you go into working life. It might be entirely the wrong decision if you look at your brain profile. You still build up these skills. And then you can actually see like, okay, maybe I should move a bit. So in terms of career planning, you could also advise what is the best next step for you. Bringing the skills that you already created. Well, you put lots of effort in that because you were going upstream there. But then you can take them and start doing work that belongs better to what your brain is built to do.
That is so. And we have been doing this for quite some time. So we have these brilliant anecdotes, but sometimes you have especially young people, which we both get very enthusiastic about. Mm-hmm. You get these things like, I had this anecdote from a young person who did the test, and that person came from a family of physicians. Right? You know these families, right? Yeah. Everybody's a doctor here. And this person was just completely unaligned with that profile. And the person felt it. And
it's a recipe for disaster.
And we could just help that.
I know someone in my social environment.
Okay, this is not you. Here's the data for that.
What you
and that's amazing to do. because person already knew, right? So that's different. But we basically validated it.
No, I think it's amazing. First of all, what you can uncover with playing the Neurolympics, and I think there's 2 key points maybe to take away here. This is only a little bit of a taste of I think what you can get with the Neurolympics. I mean, we're only touching upon small insights, but there's so many more insights. So this leads us to the second takeaway. You should definitely try the Neurolympics, either for your personal development or insight, but definitely also for better team development. Everyone speaks about diversity, but what is real cognitive diversity if you really want to know which teams function best together and how you can place your employees in the best spot, and also what talent you might be missing out there, and of course also in the athletic world. So if we take the football example again, where do your players thrive at, which positions, or how can your team best work together? So
I do want to add one more point here. Like I think we're talking about elite sports here. We're talking about high-end consultancy firms here, but this also works for people without a CV who have been unemployed for more than 10 years. So even there you can advise them what to do. So it's actually for everyone. So it's not some kind of elitist thing. You can actually use that for everybody.
Right. Well, thank you for adding this very, very strong point. Off camera, we briefly spoke about 2 societal issues that you are both seeing at the moment. Maybe we can briefly touch upon them also towards the end of our episode now. What are maybe 2 issues, that you're seeing right now in our society when it comes to looking at talent?
For me, it's quite a big one. Actually, one of the arguments to actually start this business is actually to move away from basic research to basically doing stuff with those insights to actually help people. And we started off in football, which is basically the most a sport for the people, right? It's for everyone. And then we started adding value everywhere. And when I really got enthusiastic, what we touched a little bit last episode, is recognizing that by looking at talent so completely differently, we could really do something here. Because we noticed, and now we started maybe 10 years ago, and now everybody's talking about bias and heuristics, etc., etc. Back then, not so much, to be honest. But we really found that the basic talents which you could the profiles that we could isolate that were predictive of performance did not really correlate that highly with the natural inflow of jobs. So basically exposing, you are hiring certain kinds of people, and that's not that predictive. Now, what's the societal issue? Like anything right now, energy, water, everything right now is basically a distribution problem. There is enough of everything. But where the demand is not where the supply is. HR is no different. So here in Amsterdam, people are looking through a specific lens to particular people. And they can't find them.
And that's exclusive.
That's very exclusive. But even in the Netherlands, there's abundance amount of talent if you just look differently. And our test really can help with that.
I think this is a crucial part. And
that's not and if you expand that beyond our borders in the EU, or that becomes an even bigger opportunity.
And not even a problem,
it's an opportunity. Because if you start matching those will be your future healthy, vital, and productive employees. And that not only solves right now, because of the labor shortage, it solves a very big problem for employers. It also gives, it's basically a stepping stone, a step up for a lot of talent that is just basically ignored right now.
No, I think you're on the right track here, but it really boils down to say somebody like if you have a job opening. Well, back in the days, you might have 50 applicants, right? And you needed to have some kind of way of selecting through them. Some people end up as the best qualifying candidates. You actually want to hire the person that will thrive. That shows the best performance after they have been hired, right? That's the intention, at least. And there's lots of people that end up second, third, or maybe even last in the selection process. But if you look at their natural talents, they are actually the ones that are most likely to thrive within that job, within your company. Wow. And by looking differently, you would select different people. Well, if you get rejection upon rejection upon rejection, of course you don't have a great CV, right?
Yeah. How exactly? How should you build it up? And then also,
it's an exclusive way of selecting in that sense. And I think up to the point, like I think this distribution problem, that's a way of seeing that. I think also, like, I don't believe in labor shortage in some sense. I'm a strong disbeliever in that. Like, if we treat ourselves differently and show in which context our brain thrives and actually change the way we work to what our brain wants. So to adjust the tasks you do in your job, to adjust the working context to your brain, then you can easily get this 30% efficiency, maybe even 40 or 50%. If you stop multitasking in difficult work, you probably get about 80 to 90% more efficiency. And then we don't have to put in a lot of hours anymore. We just work more efficiently. So we can do the work with, well, probably even less hours and the same amount of people.
Wow. It sounds so easy.
Yeah. No, it isn't, because it's a systemic thing. Yeah. But it starts not with, most people will finish this sentence with, it starts with awareness, which is obviously true, but it doesn't stop with awareness. So you have to do things. You have to do things. And that is the crucial thing. So if you start changing your behaviors a little bit as a person, as a team, as an organization, and start doing that not just once to try it out, but like reliably, so it will lead to a pattern. Then you can start working at getting more efficient. Yeah. But awareness is never enough by itself.
Wow, that's some really, really deep insights that you're both dropping.
And I think one of the things, like I do lots of master classes on concentration and attention, right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
And if you do these master classes with working professionals, then actually I have a takeaway, like do this one thing differently. And what happens? They keep trying, and their colleagues keep distracting them, so they will never get into the routine. But once you do that with an entire team of people working together, you can actually make it work.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing all these, I think, super relevant, super deep insights. It's, I think, very hot topic. But doesn't end with awareness, Andries, as you say.
It never does.
Never does. Well, we're approaching the end of our episode, but no Olympic podcast would end without, again, a cool down. So just as every Olympian would stretch their muscles after a heavy workout or competition, we want to make sure that we are preparing the brain cells to ease into a resting state to process today's conversation. So as a last point for this episode, let's have a little reflection on what is a key point you want to expand upon or again emphasize for our listeners to take home. One last message.
Well, I would say know your brain strengths and weaknesses, and be friendly for your brain.
I love that.
That's good. I will. I'm trying to tie it to what I previously said. So try to find, for instance, for your own job, try to define, basically think about what kind of behaviors actually are important for being successful in that job. Because obviously, most of the time we talk in kind of like very vague skills and competencies. But if you really start breaking it down to what you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, it might be a little bit different. It's a little bit of a vague challenge, but try to think about it.
Work is behavior.
Work is just doing things. Yeah, behavior.
Yeah. Great insights. And thanks so much once again for our great conversation. I think discussing really hot topics and giving lots of insights. And also thank you for so vulnerably sharing a little bit of your cognitive profiles with us to exemplify what you could practically gain from the Neurolympics. And I also love the discussion around purpose and passion, of course, and the societal issues at the end. We hope that you're leaving us once again inspired and taking home some insights. And we would love for you to join the club of playing the Neurolympics. So if you want to do that for yourself or for your team, for your business, for your football club, please visit us under www.brainsfirst.com. And for the next episodes, we're actually planning to dive into a specific topic or theme for an entire month. So to go really deep into a topic, and you can expect one of our in-house neuroscience experts regularly on one of the episodes, but also we're going to invite external guest speakers to speak on our episodes. So stay tuned, and we would love to see you frequently on the Neurolympics podcast. So please make sure to subscribe and to follow, and also please engage with us. So leave any questions, insights, or remarks in the comment section, and we'll be happy to get back to you. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a good one, everyone. And we will see you next time on the Neurolympics podcast. Ciao, ciao.